The next person you've heard from for 3 years now, not by his real name, but I think once he mentioned he goes by Matty Ice. I'm going to turn it over to him.
Shut up. I want to get this done quick so I can get back in line for my Star Wars tickets. So buckle up, we're going to move along pretty quick tonight. As Rob said, my name is Dan Cusack. You probably know me better as the Jar Jar Binks of the PCBA. You may also know me from my TV commercials and my slogan, Cusack can, Cusack will. I'm a stickler for truth in advertising, though, so going forward, we're going to tweak that a little bit. Starting next year, the slogan's going to be Cusack can't, Cusack won't. That's what Esther the paralegal's here for. As Drew said, this is my now 4th year of doing this. To put that into Star Wars terms, like I do everything, that would make this the Phantom Menace, just to give you an idea of how much it's going to suck, okay? And I'm nervous up here tonight because this is the first time that my lovely wife has had the nerve to come here and watch this. I know her as my own little Princess Leia, Return of the Jedi slave girl variant. Seriously though, it's always amazing to me how quickly a year goes by, and you think about it, just 12 short months ago, Jody Hoos was an assistant state's attorney and Bruce Jenner was a dude. So stuff changes in ways you can't anticipate. I'd like to illustrate my point a little bit further. I learned last year that the cheapest applause line I can use is to mention Judge McCuskey's name. See? It still works. So if I may, Judge, we all know that Judge McCuskey, whom you may also know as Han So Old, returned to the civil bench about a year ago today. What we don't, I think, focus enough on, though, is the thanks he got is the first thing they threw in his lap was an 8-hour TRO hearing pitting Todd Strong against Ed Prill. I don't know if they give out Purple Hearts for this, but that would be it. The burning legal issue that he was called upon to decide was who gets to keep the 300 shitty workers' comp cases. And when I heard about that, I was like, God, that just sounds terrible. And McCuskey said, Matt, that was the most excruciating thing I've ever sat through. Since that time, I agreed to judge a storytelling contest between John Gorman and Joe Vespa. He said, in hindsight, I would rather have watched RuPaul interview, Richard Simmons for 8 hours. By the end, he was researching whether he could impose the death penalty on himself. 2015 will go down as the year of the 6-person jury. That was kind of a big thing this year. That law was passed on the theory that the fewer people you involve in a decision-making process, the more likely they are to get the thing right. Kind of like Florida in 2000. You know, those last 34 people woke up that morning and they're like, screw it, the other 11 million people got this. I'm gonna sit this one out. I've actually done the research though, because I'm a skeptic. I'm not so sure this is a good idea. What I have discovered, and this will be published in the scientific literature, is if you construct a double-blind random sampling of any 6 voting age American citizens, the following holds true across all demographic, economic, and geographic lines, what you will find is the first two people that you randomly select will mistakenly believe that they are in line for the early bird special at Old Country Buffet. The next three will not be able to name either of their two U.S. senators, but they will know the precise location of every medical marijuana dispensary within 3 states. And the sixth one, who will be your jury foreman, will be Jared from Subway. So, if that sounds good to you, then this is going to be awesome. But yeah, I know. But for everybody else, it's going to be like having life's most difficult disputes settled by the cast of the Real World Creve Coeur edition. Probably the biggest news in 2015, and maybe the biggest news ever for the PCBA, was the election of our very own Darren LaHood to the United States House of Representatives. You may know Darren as Blando Calrissian. I've known him since we were in high school. I've known him since we were freshmen in high school. And so it's very special to me on a personal level, because to me, what this means is I can make fun of Darren now to his face for the first time, which is awesome. But as excited as I am, his former partners at Miller Hall and Triggs are even more excited, because for the first time in like forever, they've got a plausible answer to the question, what exactly is it that Darren LaHood does? The fact of the matter is, though, and a lot of people don't know this, I am actually a senior policy analyst for Congressman LaHood. Senior policy advisor. I don't like to talk about it or advertise it, because it's Darren after all. It's not like, he's not like a Kennedy or something, but at the risk of violating federal campaign finance laws, because who gives a shit, Darren has asked me to essentially hijack this program tonight and use this as an unsolicited constituency outreach program, just so you can get to know your representative in Congress, okay? So on Darren's behalf, first of all, he wants me to assure you that he shares your commitment to family values. That's first and foremost. Darren's first act upon being elected to Congress was to sponsor legislation defining, once and for all, marriage as a sacred bond between a man and a woman, or two women if they're super hot. Darren also believes very firmly in promoting public service. So what he does regularly is he goes out and he speaks to young people. And just last week, we were doing a program. He was speaking to some young people. And towards the end, one of these little scamps raised his hands. And he said, "You've inspired me. I want to be a congressman. How do I do that?" And Darren said, "It's not that hard. Here's what you do. Tonight, when you go home, wander around your neighborhood until you find an eccentric but lovable scientist. Help him build a time machine. Take that time machine back to about 1966. Find Ray LaHood. Convince him to invite your mom to the Enchantment Under the Sea dance. See to it that they fall in love, get married, and have kids. And this is an important step. Make sure you are one of those kids. And then basically don't do shit for 47 years. And trust me, kid, that story will write itself." Speaking of time machines, your representative in Congress is not afraid to take a hard stand on a tough issue. Just this week, he joined Jeb Bush in unequivocally stating that if given a time machine and an opportunity to do so, he would in fact go back and kill baby Hitler. He is a firm supporter of infanticide under that particular circumstance. You criminal guys in the audience, help me out on this because I don't do this kind of stuff. I was not aware of this Terminator 2 defense. Is that a thing now? You can be all like, I didn't murder him, I was preventing future genocide. But I digress. Firm stand on a tough issue. As an aside, the media, they don't let anybody off the hook, so they asked the same question to Bernie Sanders, and his answer was, he said, I don't give a damn about baby Hitler. I would take my carbon-neutral time machine and I would drive it back to the 19th century, where I would kill baby Thomas Edison. Because without Thomas Edison, there would be no incandescent light bulb, and with no incandescent light bulb, there would be no need for energy, and with no energy, we would live in mud huts in the dark, and there would be no global warming. Which, by the way, is what caused baby Hitler. And in case you're wondering, baby Hitler's only comment was, okay, so wait a minute, you're telling me the Third Reich is obliterated in a hellscape of death and destruction, and Hillary Clinton might become president someday? Just go ahead and kill me now. See, the beauty of that is that I brought it full circle to offend everyone. I digress, though. Congressman LaHood respects the office that he's taken. He respects the historical context of what he's doing. You know, he understands that he's not just following in the footsteps of Aaron Schock. He's following... That's not even a punchline. He's following in the footsteps of Jesse Jackson Jr. and Mel Reynolds and that guy that killed his intern. So the first thing he said when he got elected is he's like, wait a minute, you're telling me until the next election I can't steal shit, commit statutory rape, or murder anybody? Like, what? That sucks. And finally, I have to address the elephant in the room, The Office. As we all know, the beginning of the end of Aaron Schock was The Office. He had it redecorated in the theme of Downton Abbey, which is kind of like, imagine if Jay Jansen hired Liberace to redecorate his office. It's like that. To explain further, Downton Abbey is a show. It's on PBS. So, if you're not a liberal hippie and don't watch PBS, I'll explain it more. It's this show about these people who have no discernible skills, who apparently made a crap load of money at some point in the distant past, but through means that are never really explained. And ever since, they live in this gaudy, obnoxious building, just irritating the shit out of everybody. Which ironically in Peoria would be called The Jay Jansen Show. But in the words of Oscar Wilde, the decorating has to go. So Darren knew it was important to redecorate that shit in a means that is commensurate with the attitude, the kick-assedness of the 18th District. So we went with the obvious choice. If you go, take your kid to Washington, get the tour, you will see that his new office is actually an exact replica of Tony Montana's bedroom at the end of Scarface. Mound of cocaine on the desk, gold-plated Uzi on the wall, the whole works. And it works out great because anytime a congressional investigator shows up with a stack of fraudulent expense reports, he can just be all like, say hello to my little friend, and send them on their way. Okay, I'm done with Darren LaHood. Speaking of redecorating, 2015 is the year Heil Royster moved into its new office. It's nice. Is anybody from Heil even here, or am I just talking into the wind on this? Anyhow, it's really cool. I got my first tour last week or so. If you haven't been there, what you'll see is that when visitors walk in, they are greeted by an animatronic replica of Roger Clayton's hair, which is really cool. Heil Royster is very committed to history and to honoring people who sacrificed for our way of life. And so that's why each of the 4 main conference rooms is named after a founding member of Van Halen. And the technology is amazing too. They actually, and this was, they kind of did a poll among the attorneys, like, what do you guys want? And so the technology, they came in, brought in a team of acoustic engineers to design the acoustic system in the office. So they have this system now that automatically mutes the sound of Nick Birchie anywhere in the office. Heil's not the only firm to redecorate. We also saw Hall, Fady, Rustum, I don't even know what their name is. They moved into a new office down there on Water Street. They're the ones who advertise at summer camp, like, hey, stoners, come here and let us take your money. And if you've seen the office, it's pretty cool. Like, if you see it, it's pretty tricked out. And I've heard rumors, I haven't had them confirmed yet, but I've been told it cost like 12 kilos of weed. But the weird thing about it is that they had no sooner finished and moved in than I heard they were building a new office. And I'm like, what's up with that? And they said, we're going to keep building new offices and moving until Jeff Green doesn't follow us anymore. Other law firms in the news, I heard recently that Westervelt, Johnson, Nickel, and Keller is merging with Vanagan, Lawless, Traeger, and Slevin. The new firm's going to be called, wait a minute, I didn't know that guy was still alive. And just to give you, can I continue? Just to give you an idea of how fast stuff happens. Some stuff I missed. This doesn't even belong in 2015, but I don't care. I must be the last person to realize that Parker and Halliday split. Didn't know. I only found out like a week ago because I was driving home and I decided I'm going to stop at the Tavern on Prospect up there at Junction City, because who wants to go home sober, right? So I park my car, I get out, I'm walking up to the bar, and I look up, and I see Doc Halliday's office. And right away, I'm like, oh, this is going to be confusing, because for 22 years, I've told people, if you want to find Doc Halliday, find your nearest bar and look down. I wrote that joke like 10 months ago, by the way, so. As always, I like to conclude by recognizing our fine members of the judiciary. To begin with, Judge Corey asked me to make an administrative announcement. Coco called me the other day, and he said, new administrative rule, it applies only to his courtroom. Starting January 1st, your desire to try to hit on his clerk, Amber, will no longer be considered a valid reason to schedule a status hearing every week. Pursuant to the Amber Alert rule, you actually have to articulate a reason remotely related to your case in order to step foot in his courtroom, okay? And I was skeptical. I'm like, is that really a problem? And Coco was like, look, dude, the last time we did walk-ins, there was 5 motions on file seeking leave to perform an independent medical examination on Amber. And bad news, Jim Carter and Bruce Tiemann, they were all denied. So we finished out the year with a bit of bad news. It started with Judge Dubicki, whom you may also know as Obi-Wan. Can I take that under advisement? He announced his retirement, and it was like just a day or two later that Geraldine Mayer announced she was retiring. And then like the very next day, Judge Lyons, whom you may know as C3P won't be showing up for work tomorrow, Judge Lyons announced that he wasn't retiring. So, you know, they say these things happen in threes. All right, anyhow, that's it. I'm getting back in line. Thank you.